Good evening, everybody. My name is Arisa, and I am most definitely an alcoholic. The date of my last drink was October the 13th of 1993. And for me, that is astounding because a drunk like me should not be sober this long. My sponsor's name is Mary. I come from Brookline, Massachusetts, which is basically Boston. My home group is the Beacon Group, and it is an honor to be with you guys. Thank you so much to Kent and the whole group for inviting me to be with you. It's been a wonderful weekend in general, and what a great way to end my little stay with you guys, getting to tell my story. I am not originally from Boston. That's why I don't sound like I'm parking the car. I originally hail from Corpus Christi, Texas. If you don't know where that is, that's about 4 hours south of Houston. I grew up under a banana tree, and literally. And that's where I did all my drinking, and that's where I got to get sober. Did I say the date of my last drink? The date of my last drink was October 1993. And so I came into the rooms when I was still quite young. And trust me, that was not a good thing as far as I was concerned. I started drinking pretty young. I grew up in a really crazy home. My dad's the adult child of a missionary. My mom's the adult child of an alcoholic. And that's not a great cocktail. I don't suggest it. It was nuts. It was violent. It was ugly. There was nothing pretty about it. I grew up well under the poverty line. And there was a lot of abuse of all different sorts. You name it, it happened pretty much. And I tell you that for one reason and one reason only. It has nothing to do with my drinking. The reason that I thought for a long time that if what had happened to me had happened to you, you would drink too. I definitely was thirsty. I'm not saying it didn't make me a little bit thirsty, but here's my truth is that, I always felt different. That's what I heard from you guys. And I identified that with, I remember hearing the term terminally unique. And I thought, that's it. That's me. I finally fit in. I'm terminally unique with all of you who are terminally unique. How is it we can all be terminally unique together? I don't get that, but it works. My first drink I had on my own, I should say, I was 15 years old. It was a blender full of that frozen Bacardi mix from the freezer section at the grocery store with a nip in it, like one, and that my girlfriend had made. And we split it. So I have half a nip in my styrofoam cup, and we took it to a pier and we watched the sun go down over the Gulf of Mexico. And like the pink clouds were out in force. It was a beautiful evening. And we are good girls. I do not litter. So I'm carrying my little styrofoam cup back to her truck. And I get busted by an undercover TABC officer, and I get a minor in possession for possessing nothing. I have this crazy way of like, if bad things are going to happen, the joke is step away from the redhead, because weird things really do happen to me. I don't know what that is about, but it is true. So he searched the car. We had no alcohol. We had drunk what little that we had there. And yet I get this minor in possession. So here's where I think I crossed that line we talk about. When he left, I looked at her and I said, if I'm going to be in this much trouble, I'm going to deserve it. Now, up until this point, I was about as straight-laced as you can possibly get. I don't get straight A's. I get straight A pluses. I mean, I graduated with a 99 point something or other. I don't remember exactly what. I am all about like trying to make the outside look as good as possible because everything inside is just ick. So, I mean, I don't speed, I don't jaywalk, I don't anything. And I looked at her and I convinced her to take me back to her grandparents' house where I found the liquor cabinet zoned right in on it. It had a padlock. Not a problem. I found a screwdriver, took the hinges off of took the doors off entirely and proceeded to have a drink out of every single bottle in that very extensive liquor cabinet. And that's how I drank from Jump Street. right? And by the end of the evening, they needed to contain me. I was redecorating the house with bodily fluids. It was that's as good as it really got. Within 3 months, I am drinking on 6th Street in Austin. Now, again, I'm 15 years old. It's not even legal for me to be on the premises, but that doesn't matter because I'm 5'11". You know, nobody asked if I was old enough. I just did. Rules were for other people. How did I go from this girl who followed every rule to all of a sudden overnight, it's like nothing applies to me? Because when I had that drink that very first night, something happened to me that doesn't happen to other people, which I didn't get. I didn't understand for a long time. See, I'm married to this non-alcoholic. They are interesting creatures. You should observe them. I mean, they do very strange things. So when David drinks, he gets this slightly tipsy, out of control feeling, which he doesn't like. So he stops. And I keep trying to tell him, baby, you can get there. Just, keep going. Don't quit before the miracle. It'll happen. But he has no desire. I mean, when I met this man, he had a wine rack that had dust on it. The man a few weeks ago, he had a dinner party and he had a bunch of guys over and they had some champagne. Like for 6 people, I don't know, maybe there were 3-4 bottles, I don't know, something like that. There was 3/4 of a bottle of champagne left, which they put a cork in. Now that's alcohol abuse. I mean, that's a drinking problem, in my opinion. And when he's the guy, he puts the argon gas in, and if he opens that bottle and he sniffs it, and he'll pour a little in and he'll sniff that. And then and dumps the whole thing down the drain. I don't get that. I do not know. I mean, my favorite drink, I was an underage alcoholic. My favorite drink is, what do you got? Or Mad Dog 2020 if I'm lucky. I mean, this is it. This is a good, Everclear Punch is about as good as it ever got. I don't, my idea of one is until it is gone. I've never kept a cap. I've never had anything with a cork. Forget about that. I mean, I don't get it. I drink for effect. I drink for as much and as hard as I can, as quickly as I can. Because that first night when I drank, that half a nip inside of me, it was like somebody tiptoed up behind me and pulled the plastic bag off of my head that I didn't even know had been there. I could never quite get enough oxygen into my lungs. When I drink, I get all those 9-step promises. I don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I comprehend the word serenity. I definitely know how my experience can benefit everyone. I mean, there is nothing that I can't do. I can handle it, bring it on, whatever. And if alcohol doesn't do that for you, you will never let it do to you the kind of things that I let it do to me. So here I am, 3 months into drinking, 15 years old. I'm on 6th Street, first bar, and I get abducted. I'm telling you, like, those are not good odds. I mean, that doesn't happen to most people. I understand that, which is exactly why I became this. Why me was like kind of my battle cry for a long time. We used to, when I came into the rooms, we would do this thing, like a V for victim, but in 3 dimensions, because everything I see is through this lens of why me. Why does everything happen to me? It's like I have my own personal Eeyore cloud that God's up there going, get the redhead. I don't know what that's about. And I do get a disproportionate amount of things, but come on. So, I was fortunate enough, obviously, to have gotten away because I'm here tonight. But at that moment, that's when I really started drinking for what Bill calls the sickest of all reasons for oblivion. I couldn't stand being in my own skin anymore. I wanted to die so badly. There's this T-junction in Corpus Christi. It's not a great cliff, but it is a cliff and it goes into the Gulf of Mexico. And I've just gotten my driver's license. I've got a 1976 Cadillac. That's the one you have to start turning about 2 blocks before if you want to, So I'm sitting at the T junction waiting for the light to turn green because you can't run a red light when you're going to commit suicide because then you're really down to hell. I mean, it just can't happen. So I'm waiting for the light to turn green and this miracle happened. It's my favorite miracle, by the way, because it happened a lot. I remembered there's a keg party out at the beach. I mean, that's what alcohol does for me. I didn't have to die that night. Alcohol saved my life more times than I can count. I love alcohol. I really, really love alcohol. I think I love alcohol probably more than most of the people sitting in the bars tonight because alcohol saved everything. It was really everything to me. So when very quick, I'm drinking with the Texas football players, my girlfriends are drinking, wine coolers and they're talking about being buzzed. I've never been buzzed. I go buzzed right past buzzed. I have no interest in being tipsy. I've never been tipsy. I don't know what that is. I mean, I drink for effect. I need to get this fixed inside of me. Like I said, he gets slightly tipsy and out of control. Baby, I get in control. I get in control. I need that sense of ease and comfort, which comes immediately. But what my best time drinking is? The 5 minutes before. Oh man, I know. There is so much hope. There's so much. It's going to be great. I mean, when you're an underage alcoholic, you don't get to drink all the time. It's kind of hard. So it was always like, drink as much as you can. I'll chug the whole bottle of Jack. I don't share, And then I've got the DTs, like for 3-4 days afterwards. And I didn't know those words until I got to you guys. So I can see that my drinking is not like other people. I'm not stupid. But when you start talking to me about, maybe you should look at your drinking, I'm thinking, no, maybe I need new friends. I mean, I hear Charlie Brown's teacher when you start, like talking to me about this stuff, because you're telling me just go die. I cannot live without this thing. It's not a possibility. So when I graduated from high school, I was voted most likely to succeed. Class president, I was class favorite. I mean, on paper, I've got this perfect little resume. I'm going to this great university, and I really want to die. I can't stand myself. I have lost any sense of wanting, there's no joy, there's no anything. I felt older then than I do today, and I'm 53 now, so I'm really old, as far as I couldn't see how I could possibly get through another day, another year, another moment. It was exhausting just breathing. I hear a lot of things in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, things like God will never give you more than you can handle. If that works for you, God bless you. And I mean that truly, not in a Texas way, not bless your heart. I know if it does, great, but it doesn't work for me because for this alcoholic, breathing for 24 hours without something to assist me is too much. On my own, lack of power really is my dilemma. I cannot be in my skin. It's just too tight. It just doesn't fit. My nerves are all raw. So you need to give me something else. But I really thought that I was drinking because of the stuff my dad was doing. I really thought that I was drinking because I had been abducted. I really thought that I was drinking because of situations. And I did my first geographic without even knowing it was a geographic by going to college. I'd already spent a little stint in AA. I'd read some of the book. I read about the potential alcoholic. I kept the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in my dorm room backwards so you couldn't see the spine. I had this feeling I might need it. But I really, really thought that if I was no longer in that house, if I was no longer in the middle of that kind of insanity, that I wouldn't need to drink. Because I believed myself when I said, if what had happened to me had happened to you, you'd drink too. So now I'm not there anymore, so I must not need to drink, right? So I start doing what we do. I go to therapy. I'm taking antidepressants. I start taking religion classes. I'm chanting with the Hare Krishnas. I can put my legs, both of them, behind my head. I go down to Brazil and I paddle up the Amazon. I'm swimming with the piranhas because God's in the Amazon. And I will go to any lengths to try and get this thing inside of me that just won't leave me alone because I'm trying not to drink. And when I don't drink, I hate you. I hate you. I hate me. I hate everybody. And if you get to drink, I can't. I don't want to be anywhere around you. My idea of how not to drink is you get a long distance boyfriend, so you never have to go out with anyone. You move off campus, so you never have to see anyone. You go, you just completely isolate. You have no life whatsoever. And I can manage not to drink for 30 days if I do that. It's a pretty miserable way of living. So I could do that, 30 days or 60 days. I did Lent once, and then of course you have to celebrate. So, there's a little oopsie daisy, but my idea of social drinking is there are no DTs. There's no invisible things crawling on you 3 days later. I mean, that's my idea. Black belts, I didn't know everybody didn't get those. I had no idea. When I got back to you right after I turned 21, I really thought that I was a high bottom drunk. I had no idea that a lot of people had never had the DTs. I thought that was normal. I'd never been to a detox. I'd never had any kind of medical attention. I didn't know those things existed. My mother would look at me and she'd say, well, maybe if you suffer enough, you won't do it again. I mean, I didn't know anything about alcoholism. There was no internet. So when I walked into that wonderful home group, a home group not too dissimilar from this, we even had the theater seats, except it was in a mobile home. But anyway, they were salvage theater seats. When I walked into that home group, which I didn't know what a home group was, and somebody took the time to explain to me what alcoholism is, it made all the difference in the world. And these people were old, man. I mean, I'm young. There was no young people's AA in Corpus Christi at that time. These people were old. They were like 30. Just life, I've been sentenced to sobriety. And, but they made sure that I understood what alcoholism is, because I didn't get it. I knew that I drank differently, but I did not get the unmanageability part. I did not understand. I knew that other people seemed to be able to stop and not hate the world. That's all I knew. And I wanted to be one of those lovely ladies who could drink like other people. Never had champagne or anything, but I still thought maybe it sounded good. And they helped me to understand that I had this mental obsession and this physical allergy, and that when you've got both of those, you've got a real problem. You hear things in the rooms like surrender to win. Man, I hate that. That's about the stupidest plan I've ever heard. I mean, what general has ever gone out and said, you know what, I got an idea. We're going to surrender to win. No. I surrender when I'm surrounded by a SWAT team. I am not going to stop until you prize it out of, there's got to be no options left. I mean, like I said, piranhas sound better. I had lots of good ideas. Piranhas are good ideas. Alcoholics Anonymous, bad idea. Not drinking, bad idea. I can't handle that idea. But I was out of good ideas, and that's why I came to you. And they assigned me a sponsor. She had 2 months of sobriety. She was a chronic relapser. I joke a lot that she was probably only about a page ahead of me in the big book, but she was doing her amends. And they knew that if she didn't help somebody, she was going to drink again. So they gave her me. I mean, how badly can she screw that up, right? I mean, what's the chances I'm going to stick around? Well, last I checked, we're both still sober. Because that home group understood that Alcoholics Anonymous is not a self-help program. It's not a mutual aid society. It is a program where we help others to get out of God's way. And you guys gave me the love and the grace to be a mess. She gave me full permission not to like it, whatever it was. She told me I could have all the temper tantrums that I wanted in the parking lot. They gave me a job. It was washing ashtrays. I don't smoke. What does this have to do with anything? She made me go to her house every weekend. I could choose Friday night or Saturday night to play canasta, whatever that was, with these old people. What am I doing and why am I here? But I've got nowhere better to go. And I really, really don't want to drink again. I had had my fill. I was so tired. I was absolutely exhausted. I was willing to go to any lengths Not any links that I agree with, any links, even the really, really stupid ones, like writing inventory. And when I wrote that I did, by the way, like she was the starter sponsor. She was, when I wrote inventory on things like my dad, right? I sat there and I told my sponsor, I said, I resent my dad for like dragging me down the stairs by my hair and tearing my clothes off, in public, even, when I'm in the middle of puberty, like it didn't matter that these like stuff that should never happen. And then I said, and what I did was I antagonized him. And thank God I had a sponsor who really understood Alcoholics Anonymous, because I was willing to do this, but what I thought you were telling me is that, you see, I wanted to blame him. And he was wrong, I believe, today. But I thought you were telling me that now I had to take it all on. What his wrongs, I had to take it all on. And thank God I had a sponsor who understood that that's not what this inventory is about. And she said, oh, no, darling. There is nothing you can do to deserve what happened to you. My question is, how are you using it today? How is it your get out of jail free card? How are you using it to rationalize not going out into this world and having a big and wonderful life? How is it that you're sitting in that jail, making sure he doesn't get out of jail early? I needed him to suffer. I wanted him to be punished because somehow I thought that was going to make me feel okay. But it never did. I wanted so badly for him to say that he was wrong. And I waited and it never happened. I told a lot of people about what was going on in my home and nobody listened and nobody helped. The people who should have protected me just didn't. And I thought what you guys were telling me was, yeah, and it's all your fault. But that's not what you told me. You told me that what I needed to really focus on is what am I going to do differently? Because it's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. That I refused to forgive my father because I was holding on to this obsessive belief that if one day my past could change, if only I could change my past, maybe I'd be okay. And you guys helped me to understand that I don't need to change my past. I need to be here now. I thought that if the world loved me enough, that I would be okay. And you guys told me that if I loved the world enough, that it would melt the polar ice cap from around my heart. I didn't believe you. I really didn't believe you, but I had nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. And when my sponsor sent me home, thinking about amends with my father, you've got to be kidding me. And the journey there started out like, she said, go make a list of the things that he's done right. I came up with one thing for my list. One, he taught me how to draw. I happen to be an artist. So it's kind of a big one. But eventually over time, I did find some other things. And that I want to be clear that doesn't mean that he's off the hook. What she helped me to understand was that he was always going to be on the hook with his creator, with his God. That he never owed me the amends, that the amends were about me getting out of that prison, me not needing to punish him anymore so I could go have this wonderful, wonderful life. And I got to have this incredible life in Alcoholics Anonymous. I moved to New York to go to graduate school. And so I'm getting a master's in fine arts in graduate school and having a great time. I'm about to go in. I've also, oh, by the way, I've met him. You know how that is. I'm starting to believe in God because he showed up, right? And the stars are aligning because he lives in New York and I'm about to move to New York and it's great, right? It's just going to be wonderful until he calls one day and he says, I can't do this. And it was, excuse me? Like he's literally talking about getting married and all of a sudden it's like gone. And he said, I can't stand the thought that you might drink again because he comes from a lot of bad alcoholism. His mother did eventually end up dying drunk. And, for the first time in my life, I knew that you guys had taught me enough about love because I didn't try to make him stay. I knew that probably that was true. He probably never would sleep through the night because his mother had done horrible things to him, like molest him and stuff like that. Can you imagine actually being able to trust that, your wife who, maybe she's in it, but his mom had been in and out of AA, in and out of AA. And the fact that I didn't need him to stay, it broke my heart, but I was okay with that. It was a little harder a couple weeks later when he started dating my sister, but a year later, less than a year later, I'm a bridesmaid in their wedding. I had some inventory first. Don't you worry. I had some, and I got to actually make amends to them. Yeah, believe it or not, because you know why? Because for 3 years, my sister tried to set me up with him, and I kept saying no, no, no. I knew I should never have gone out with this man. I shouldn't. I didn't. I even said to her, "I think he likes you." But then, I'm in New York, and he asks me out, and she's not going out with him. And so the next thing I know, like, I don't know, it sounded good. That's what inventory, I should know. I've learned that when I don't trust my gut, I'm always sorry. Every single time, especially with relationships, I get to ask myself, and when did you know? Oh, yeah, really early. It never, I ended up in one relationship for a couple of years with my best friend who I didn't, her girlfriend broke up with her. So the next thing I knew, I was it, I don't know. This is the way I had no ability to know who I was for so long. But here I am now. I'm in New York, and I'm working on this master's degree. And just so if you don't know, what you do is for 2 years, you basically work for a big show. And just before my show is supposed to be in September, and I went up to Massachusetts for the 4th of July. And while I was there, somebody shot a bottle rocket through the window and the whole place burned. All of my artwork gone. Did I mention I paint with smoke and fire? First of all, I was the prime suspect. Fortunately, I was out of this state at the time, but all of my smoke paintings burned. There's a little irony in that, isn't there? But here's the thing, the building itself was totally fine. It was an old abbey. And when I walked into that room, it was like God nudging me like this going, okay, that was your idea of smoke painting, here's mine. And you could see where the fire had come in and how it rushed up the ceiling and around the walls. The lights had these grids over them that dripped down like fingers. The clock looked like it was right out of a Dali painting. It was dripping. It was amazing. I didn't feel traumatized. I actually felt inspired. And I began to realize for the first time that fire didn't happen to me. Fires happen. They happen to lots of people. Because I was always saying, why me? Why does this stuff always happen to me? And the question that I began to realize, the better question is, why not me? If not me, then who? If it shouldn't have happened, if I shouldn't have been the one who got abducted, then who would I pass that card to? Who should it have happened? Let's be honest. Somebody was getting abducted that night. If my dad hadn't hit me, he would have been hitting somebody else. He fought with policemen. He fought with everybody. It does not matter. It wasn't actually about me. And you know how annoying that is? Because I want to at least be the heroine of my own story, for crying out loud. But 99.9% of what's going on about me has nothing to do with me. It's just their story bumping up into mine. And I don't like that. So here now the whole thing is burnt down and I feel energized and I get somebody to swap places with me. I did the entire show from the end of July to the beginning of it opened in October, and it was better than ever before. That's the way Alcoholics Anonymous works. You see, I believe that what we do really well, I like to call spiritual alchemy. The alchemists were trying to turn lead into gold. And here, what we do, we turn crap into gold. You bring us your biggest dung heap, and man, we're on it. We're on it. We're on it. And when the pressure gets really high, maybe that's when we make diamonds. You know the only problem with that? It's really hard to be a diamond in a rhinestone world. That's what I've learned. You've taught me that it's my job to shine and not to worry about whatever else is going on in this world. So now, I've gotten my degree. I have met the love of my life. David and I got married. We've been married for 25 years and together for 27, which is unbelievable. I can't even, that shouldn't happen for a woman like me. And we get married and I end up in Massachusetts, the only place I ever said I didn't want to live, by the way. Be careful when you tell God what you don't want or what you do want. I thought it was too cold. But anyway, so and life keeps going. I'm living, in the middle of AA, and of course, every time I move, they do it wrong. But I've got a home group first thing in the morning, and we're doing our best to get things going. And I get pregnant, and I have this little baby. And she stopped breathing twice before I even got her home from the hospital. She was so sick. She was pooping blood. Her intestines were bleeding, and she was just so sick. And my son, when he was born a couple of years later, he was even worse. And they were allergic to everything. My daughter outgrew a few, but my son was allergic to milk, soy, eggs, wheat, nuts, fish, shellfish, corn, peas, carrots, latex, and never mind the environmentals and all the other stuff. I mean, kids, like, he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. He had to go, he was in therapy 7 times a week in 5 days. I'm not talking about one day every day. Like, that's how intense it was. They had to move his mouth to teach him to speak. 2 years ago, he was on the United States debate team in Australia representing our country. He's a sophomore in Harvard. He's an Eagle Scout. He climbs mountains. Don't you tell me what God can't do. My daughter's totally great too. She now lives in LA. I'm going to leave from here and go see her. She also graduated from Harvard. I don't know, these kids. I mean, like, you guys raised them. You showed them what love really looks like, because my family, they didn't do that. They didn't get I think I know the way it's supposed to look. I think I know where the love's supposed to come from, but that's not the way it is. Like I said, you taught me if I love you enough, that I would find that love here. And I kept for so long, I really, really wanted to believe, thank you, that one day my family was going to sound like so many of the stories I hear in the rooms. That's not my experience. In 2018, my mother got diagnosed with cancer. She had already buried her sister, her best friend, and her husband from cancer, and she didn't want any treatment at all. And I had built a really shockingly good relationship with her. I'm the one that ended up putting her in hospice when the time came. And then everything changed, just overnight. I didn't know what was going on. I'm in Boston, she's in Texas. My other siblings are down in Texas. And the next thing I know, like, the wills are, my sister moved her in the middle of the night. I don't know where my mother is. The will's getting changed. Things are the cops are being called when I show up. I mean, it's crazy. But I don't need to make a mess out of things, because you guys showed me that that's not what this is about. I don't need the stuff. I don't need the relationships. It's a mess. My family is a mess. They didn't get these 12 steps, 12 traditions, and 12 concepts. They don't have this thing, but I do. And I get to show up as the daughter that I believe God has called me to be, and the sister that God has called me to be, which does not necessarily mean that we're going to have a close relationship. It doesn't mean that it's suddenly going to be Leave It to Beaver or any of those things. I have not spoken to my sisters in years. They don't want me in their life. And for so long, I kept thinking, my sister married my boyfriend. She's not that comfortable around me. There's a bit of tension the whole time. And I keep trying to think that somehow I can make it all just okay. I am just not that powerful. Acceptance is such a powerful thing. I thought when you said acceptance, though, you meant it's acceptable. Acceptance doesn't mean acceptable. Acceptance means it is. And when I am willing to be honest with myself about what really is, then I can finally hear God and what I need to be doing. And to be the woman that God has called me to be, to walk with grace and dignity, to not bow or scrape before anyone. So when my mother died, actually, my father-in-law had also just gone into the hospital, and I didn't get to go down there and have the bedside stories that so many of you guys have. And I'm thrilled for you that if you got those, I really am. I don't mean to make light of that, but that wasn't my experience. I was grateful that I got to be of service to my husband's family so that I didn't have to go down there, because it was not going to be pretty, and I knew it. And so I got to be there while my father-in-law died, and my sisters texted to say Mom had died and that they were planning the funeral, and it was going to be in a week. And I was like, my father-in-law's dying. I don't know if I can make that. And they're like, oh, that would be too bad. Well, he died on Thursday. We left on Friday. And So I did get to go to my mother's funeral, and I had a little inkling that it might be a little rough. Imagine that. So I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in Martinsville, West Virginia, right? I've never been to this meeting before, and it's an early morning, like 7:30 in the morning, and it's oddly packed. And I mean, there were probably about this many people in this room because somebody was celebrating like 40 years of sobriety. And I am sitting there and I'm hurting so hardcore, and I'm desperately want to tell these people, like, I don't want to end up making amends. That's really what it boils down to. I need my people. I need to feel loved. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard. I need to be called to greatness. And my husband is a mess because his dad died 48 hours earlier. He can't be my person. That's not the way it's going to roll today. So I raise my hand, they don't call on me, and then they don't call on me, and they don't call on me, and the meeting is ending, and they didn't call on me, and I'm literally crying. I'm like, really, God? Really? And then they called for burning desires, and I have never before, and I have yet to since, raised my hand. And I raised my hand, and I told these people what was going on and how desperately I wanted to not be the woman that, icky part. Like I got some bones to pick. I mean, it would be really easy. Have you ever noticed? I got divorced today. I'm going to go on a tangent. I got divorced today. First thing in the morning, straight on my knees, and I thank God for divorcing me from self-pity, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, because if I'm married to those things, I cannot be married to David. That is my nature, is I love self-pity. I mean, I can enjoy it like David enjoys a steak. And I am there, and I do not want to be that woman in that scenario. I don't want to be at my mother's funeral as that woman. It's not about what they see. It's about what I see. I get to be the woman when I understand God better. That's when I grow. And you guys taught me to find the God of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when happy, joyous, and free, that's one of my favorite things. Anybody here not want to be happy, joyous, and free? But most of us don't know where it is in the book. In the family afterwards, it says, we are sure God wants us happy, joyous, and free. That's the God of the big book. I had to learn to have spiritual temper tantrums. I mean, like I said, I'm a temper tantrum girl. I can take down you give me a 2-year-old baby, I'll take them down. And now I need to learn to absolutely insist on enjoying my life. You don't get the remote control anymore. You may have installed my buttons, but baby, you do not have right of decision. It's mine. This is between me and God. I'm going to be the woman that God calls me to be. I don't care if you like it or not. You have full permission not to like it too. But I need to be able to put my head on the pillow knowing that I have been the best version of me that I can possibly be. And I know that I'm going to screw up a ton every single day. That nightly review, were you? Yeah, yes, I was every day. Never been able to say no. I mean, I read years ago that a spiritual person makes about 600 mistakes in a day. Think about it. That's the Dalai Lama. Right. So my nightly inventory is where's Waldo? Because it's out there, baby. I mean, I'm doing them. I'm making these mistakes, but I at least trying to reach for something better. So I show up to this funeral with these 2 women that I've just met in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they are there giving me the love that I need so desperately, because no one in my life who I think should be the ones loving me are showing up. They were there when I found out that my mother had died, days before my sisters told me. They were there when there was not a seat for me in the family section, and I didn't have to make a mess, and I didn't do anything that I needed to make amends for. And I didn't protest the will that it had been changed. I didn't bring up the fact that I know there was more. I didn't have to do any of that because you were there with me. Because you were there with me. That's what God really looks like to me. I didn't know if I could ever have a higher power. But when I really read that thing, what would it look like if just for today I could practice that? The old timers in my home group used to say the other meaning of AA is attitude adjustment. Be sure Be sure. Spend this day sure that God wants you happy, joyous, and free. That is a God I can trust. Not everything happens for a reason. I cannot get on board with that. If it works for you, I am glad. But it does not, because I cannot see that logic. What I can see is that nothing is wasted in God's world, that God can turn anything to his purpose, that God is bigger than all of my problems. Do not tell me what God can't do. I believe in that spiritual alchemy. I believe that the bigger the mess, the greater the opportunity, that when the pressure gets really, really high, like I said, that's when we get diamonds. And you guys have taught me, no matter what it looks like, kids like mine often don't even survive. And I had a doctor tell me, that I was irresponsible to do a lot of the things that I did to try and give them a better life. And I thought I would be irresponsible not to try everything because I believe in miracles. We say a lot of times expectations are premeditated resentments. Find that in the book. It's not. It says expect miracles. Expect miracles. I should expect I should have expected my parents to love me and care for me and all of those things. They didn't. But I should expect love. And that because of that, I got to be that mom. I get to see and hear and love and call my kids to greatness. And they're teenagers and 20-year-olds, and they call me. I didn't know kids that age could even like their parents. You guys have given me a life I didn't know was possible. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this incredible way of living. And I'm going to go and I'm going to have a beautiful night. And I hope that you will too. Don't make other plans. God bless you. And thank you for my spray.